I did not realize that I was going to be speaking on yellow tape this morning. But you never know when Travis Clardy's around what he's going to ask you to do next. But yes, there's some yellow tape around. Basically what happened a few weeks ago, we had a very, very small fire, and the water sprinklers came on and took care of all that. But a short time after that, we had a pipe at a higher level that basically burst, and water by the gallons or hundreds or thousands of gallons came from upstairs all the way down through. Did much damage to our walls, our floors, our carpet, our furniture, etc. We've had to have a recovery team here that's been working on doing and repairing this extensive damage. We had intended to take care of that ourselves because this is an auxiliary building. But since Representative Clardy was willing to call it to your attention this morning, I will expect him in the next legislative session to come through with a special appropriations to cover this. This morning, it's my privilege to give a very, very short introduction on our new Commissioner of Public Education, Mike Morath. He's been in his job for approximately 2 months now. He assumed the responsibilities on January 4th, 2016. And in that position, he oversees the Texas Education Agency. And that agency oversees education in Texas, public education. Covers from pre-kindergarten through the high school levels. And at the current time, we have approximately 5 million students in our public schools. That's the traditional high schools as well as the charter schools. Now, he has experience in working with public schools. He served as a trustee for the Dallas Independent School District for some 4 years. And it's astonishing what happened while he served as a trustee in that 4 years. In that 4 years, they received an increase in their bond rating on 2 different occasions. They increased their reserve funds by $200 million. And they instituted new auditing procedures. But he emphasized academic accomplishment, improvement, accountability, etc. And by the time he finished his 4-year term, they had increased their kindergarten reading readiness by the kindergarten readiness by 13%. They had increased their reading scores and etc. by some 9%. They increased their math scores 9% based on the state or on a national test. And they increased their graduation rates by 11%. And their minorities on their advanced placement exams basically outscored every urban school in the nation. So very successful 4 years he spent there. He believes very, very strongly in public education because he's a product of public education himself. Graduated from Garland High School, Garland Independent School District, and he says he received a quality education there. And because of that quality education, he was able to go to George Washington University, and there he earned his Bachelor of Business degree, summa cum laude, in only 2.5 years. One of his highlights was establishing one of his first businesses. His high school there at Garland came to him and asked him if he would teach an advanced placement, advanced computer science course, and he agreed to do so because the teacher of that course had resigned abruptly and left. So he finished teaching that course for the entire year and until they were able to hire a new professor. And he says he's still amazed at how difficult it is to teach. He also has a strong belief in assisting others. And one of the things he's done, or a couple of things he has done, he has served as a volunteer in many different areas. One in his church mission group. He's also worked in schools. He has worked in juvenile delinquent centers, etc. And he has served as a mentor to the Big Brother organization. He also helped organize a trip to southern India to install a safe water system there. And also, one of his special trips, I know very special to him, was he volunteered to go to Mexico, to rural Mexico, and to work in an eye clinic. And while he was there, he met another volunteer by the name of Dr. Laura Vondran. She is now his wife. And they have a small girl, and a boy is on the way. And congratulations, Mr. Commissioner. And so we're very proud to have him serve as our Commissioner of Public Education. We're indeed fortunate to have him in Nacogdoches this morning at Stephen F. Austin State University, where he has agreed to be our keynote speaker this morning. So at this time, I would ask you to join me in helping welcome our Commissioner of Public Education, Mike Morath.
You know, I joke with folks about that trip to this eye clinic in Guerrero, Mexico. It's a little town outside of Chihuahua City. I don't speak Spanish and I have no medical skills, so I went down there and basically cleaned medical instruments and cooked people breakfast and killed bugs. But I like to think that I did have some positive impact on folks while I was down there. But the big lesson for me is giving is its own reward. I come out of that deal, and I met the woman that the love of my life, and now I have a beautiful little girl from that, and God willing, a beautiful little baby boy coming out here in about a month. So I definitely encourage us, everybody, to serve as much as possible, because that's what we're called to do, and the blessings that can pile up on us from that is sometimes unforeseen and quite amazing. I am so thankful to be here today. Very honored that the governor, of course, has given me this opportunity to serve in a new capacity. For the last 5 years, I served on the school board in Dallas, and you heard some of the outcomes highlights that we focused on. But my path to being a public education advocate was an unusual one. I ran a software company for about a decade. We built a system that really streamlined a federal child nutrition program, or reduced the administrative costs in this program by 13%. And it was a lot of hard work for sure. I think the first 4 years that I was running that company, I worked probably about 80 hours a week, and like any tale of the American dream, I was broke. I think I paid myself about $15,000 for the first 4 years before we could really turn the corner on the company and make it successful. But we did. We turned the corner and made it successful. I was able to sell that company a few years ago, and as a quasi-retired 30-something, volunteered full-time on the Dallas School Board, which of course is unpaid, and it's a great job. Nobody ever questions your judgment or integrity or motivations. But it was, my path there was not an easy one, and of course I experienced many failures along the way. Before this company, my most recent company, was successful, I had another software company, a .com, that I started just out of college, and that was a sort of catastrophic failure. And I certainly learned a great deal from that. You learn much more from your failures than you do your successes. But I was still very well prepared regardless. I had a phenomenal public school education. When we moved to Texas when I was about 10, my mom calls TEA, of course pre-internet, and asks, where should we move for my little boy to get a great education? And so the first 5 or 6 people said, all of our schools are the same, you can go anywhere you want to and you'll get a great education. Then she got somebody that was a little bit more honest and said, why don't you move to Garland? They've got this vertically aligned magnet pathway, international baccalaureate diploma program, and if your kid gets into that, he'll get a great education. And I did. I came out of high school in Garland with 36 hours of college credit, which allowed me to graduate so quickly from GW. Got a full ride to GW from my great public school education. It was, of course, a lot of hard work along the way, but there were 2 things that I had no control over. I didn't get to pick the schools my parents put me into. And I certainly won the jackpot there. And I didn't get to pick my parents either. And I was born to two parents that loved each other and loved me very much. And they weren't rich, but I never really suffered from want. And that was a phenomenal break. I don't know why God chose to bless me in that way, but He did. And along the way, I've been a big brother. Been a big brother now for about 10 years with the Big Brothers program. And my first little, I've been matched to two different littles over the years. And my first little, it was, obviously it's a very emotional and moving experience. I encourage everybody to become a big brother or big sister. I mean, imagine how different the world would be if we all took responsibility for one life that we didn't have to. But the sort of intellectually, removing myself from the emotion of the experience, comparing my life to that of my little was an absolute exercise in contrasts. He didn't really know his father, and his mom loved him, wanted the best for him, but his mom was in and out of rehab pretty much the entire time that we were matched, and so he had it rough. And he was a kid in Dallas ISD schools and DISD schools, and I would talk to him about what he was doing in school and what he was learning and how he was engaged. And what became clear to me, abundantly clear to me, is that despite the best efforts of our educators, despite a huge number of angels that we have in the classrooms, that he was just sort of getting lost in the system. There was nobody that ever said, I'm going to lay hands on you and I'm not letting you get past me. And we failed him. We did. When he was 16, he went to apply for a job at Brahms, and I helped him. And it became abundantly clear that he couldn't fill out the job application without my help. He was not functionally literate, even though he'd been promoted through our schools. And I got to a point with my company where I could decide, I can make more money. I can keep after this. But I just couldn't do it. I guess I'm governed by a creed that you do for the least of my brothers, you do for me. And I could not sit by and let this happen to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids, because our system isn't designed to support them the way that they need support. And so ultimately I decided to throw away a perfectly good life and sell my software company and run for the school board. And I'm certainly I planned becoming commissioner of education from that, but no. So the work is necessary. This is what I feel called to do. I have felt called to do, and I think that we can make an impact, a major impact on the lives of so many of our young people, and it's necessary work. I mean, even if you don't care about young people, it's necessary for the economy. It's necessary for the future of our republic. To get public education right as we can. As Commissioner of Education now, I'm faced with a new job relative to my job as a school board member, and so I still have so much to learn just about the space. Of course, I wasn't a career educator, and understanding how our schools work and the challenges that they have, especially in rural settings. I mean, I have a fairly good background growing up in the suburbs of Dallas, and then serving on the big city school district board. So I'm going around the state and talking to folks and listening to folks to find out what the challenges are that we face everywhere. But even as I sort of inform my own actions from that listening to her, I've got sort of three general priorities that I think I need to focus on within the agency. And I think priority number one is really supporting our educators. No school system, no system of schools outperforms its teachers, and what we do to love on those who love on our kids is so critically important. We've got to provide the most effective supports possible to help teachers, regardless of the environment in which they teach, improve their ability to serve our kids. This is, I think, our first and primary mission in public education, is supporting our educators to get results, which focuses on the sort of second key priority. The discussion point, the concept of what it is that we have a public system of education for. What is it that we hope it to accomplish? What expectations do we have for our kids? And from them, what expectations do we have for our schools? This conversation about the outcomes that we want to see our young people prepared for coming out of our schools, this is a critical piece of the conversation. And one of the biggest challenges that I had as a school board member in Dallas was answering a fairly basic question, which is, Are our schools getting better? Are they getting worse, or are they staying the same? And that requires this framework, this outcomes framework to understand. And without that outcomes framework, then all we can ever do is argue over inputs. And that doesn't necessarily lead us to a place where we are maximizing the potential of all of our little bundles of energy that come into our school system. And so getting this outcomes conversation right is such a critical piece of public education. And I think the traditional language for that is accountability. But I view this differently. It's a question about what do we do to set goals and expectations for our kids, and what kind of expectations then do we have for our schools, both on the academic side and the non-academic side. Where do we want to see them go, and do we have a framework of looking at outcomes that allows for continuous improvement? Because everybody can improve no matter where you are today. And allowing us to have an outcomes-based conversation, this is a critical piece of public policy, right? We fund public education. We spend a lot of tax money in this state on public education, and we need to know whether or not we're getting better results for kids, or we're getting the same results for kids, or we're getting worse results for kids. So my second key priority is that conversation, and I think the A through F framework that the legislature passed, that the governor championed, is such a key part of this, because the labels themselves, while they are relatively simplistic, it's the concept of this multiple tiers, that there is a difference between B-level performance and A-level performance. And if you're getting a B, then you can act on that to try to improve the work that you do for your kids to get to A-level performance. This is a key part of that outcomes and transparency conversation that I think we have to get right. And I think my third general priority with the agency is the agency itself. You know, we are a regulatory body. We are our role is to implement legislation, but if you focus on compliance, I don't know any kid whose heart was lit on fire with a compliance checklist. You know, what our role